One of the most important equipment related decisions you'll need to make is what do you do at the top end of your bag. There are plenty of options. You can go for hybrids, long irons or utility irons. And the utility iron sector is certainly one that's gathering momentum, and that's because I think a lot of the equipment manufacturers feel like they're able to build in more performance into club heads that you would describe as looking fairly traditional. And I've got three of my favourites in my hands here. I've got the PING G400 Crossover, the Titleist TMB and the Mizuno MP-18 MMC Fli-Hi, all of which are designed to offer that little bit more help at the top end of the bag for players that traditionally probably would have gone for long irons. Now we've put all three of these irons against each other head to head. We use a GC Quad launch monitor, we use premium golf balls. The specs of the golf clubs is all virtually the same. I think the only sort of notable difference is that the Titleist 3 iron has 1 degree more loft than the other two. And we've split the verdict into 5 different categories. So we've got looks, performance, feel, forgiveness and value. Hopefully by doing that we're able to kind of guide you towards which iron might be best for your game. So let's take a look at the results. The looks category is a very interesting one because there's one iron that looks very different to the other two, and that's the PING G400 Crossover. It has a much thicker top line and there's more surface area to hit, so more distance between the heel and the toe. Frankly, it's more inviting to hit. And I think if you're somebody that struggles a little bit with the consistency of your ball striking, this one will be much more confidence inspiring. Having said that, the irons that I prefer the look of were these two, so the Titleist and the Mizuno. They're more compact, they're more traditional, so they really are traditional looking long irons at the top end of the bag. There really isn't much to choose between them. The only thing I didn't like about the Titleist is this sort of brownish finish on the sole to signify the tungsten that's been built into the head. I'm not a massive fan of that, so if I was going to choose which of these 3 irons, purely based on the looks, it would be the Mizuno. So with the difference in the looks of the 3 products, there comes a difference in performance. And I'm going to flash up the data that I was able to get hitting all 3 of these clubs. The PING was definitely, for me, the easiest to launch. It was getting 14.7 degree launch angle, which is higher than the other 2, and more spin at 3,750. That all equated to a much bigger peak height at 36. Now, this is only a 19 degree club, and that just shows you that this is the easiest one to get up and away, and that will suit a lot of golfers out there. So even with the fact that the PING was the shortest of the 3 at 220 yards carry versus 224 for the Titleist versus 228 for the Mizuno, even with the fact that the PING was for me the shortest of the 3, in terms of performance, this was the easiest to launch, the easiest to get up and away, and probably the most accurate. So if I was picking purely on performance, the winner would be the PING G400 Crossover. For me, the PING G400 Crossover was the one I enjoyed the feel of the least. Obviously, it's the biggest head. So with all of those technological elements that have been built into the PING G400, there does come a trade-off, and I think that trade-off is the feel. Part of that is down to the wider sole. It has a wider sole, which makes it just, for me, hitting it off the deck, it just didn't get through the turf quite so easily. It just didn't create that sort of crisp feel through impact that you're looking for. All 3 of them are hollow construct heads, but this one is bigger. And it just felt a little bit different. So if I was choosing on feel, it'd be one of these 2. Can I choose between them? No. What I would say is that if you're somebody that is steering away from testing these out because you really love the feel of a traditional long iron, I'd say test either of these 2 up against your set 3 iron or your set 4 iron. I think you'll struggle to tell the difference, and there is significant forgiveness benefits in there that have been worked into the head to help that performance, to help that consistency of distance. It could make a significant difference to you at the top end of the bag. So before I get onto my winner in this category, just a couple of points to make. Firstly, all 3 of these clubs are significantly more forgiving than a traditional long iron. And secondly, I was testing these, I'm a 5 handicapper, my ball striking isn't probably as consistent as I'd like it to be. Little shots out of the heel, little shots out of the toe, so that might have an impact on the data. But having said that, I think the data does tell quite a compelling story. And the winner in terms of how consistent the distance was was the Titleist TMB. Just 9 yards difference between my longest and shortest shot is absolutely fantastic performance, especially when you consider this club was going 220, I think it's 4 yards through the air. That's really good performance. It was 11 yards for the Mizuno, which is very good, and the PING came out as 19 yards difference between my longest and shortest. So in terms of forgiveness, those little heel and toe strikes, all three of these golf clubs perform really well. The one that came out on top for me though was the Titleist TMB. So I'm going to reference the recommended retail prices here. Obviously, if you do a little bit of shopping around, you might be able to find them for a little bit less, but this gives you a bit of guidance as to what to expect. The Mizuno is the least expensive of the three, coming in at $150. The PING is $200 and the Titleist is $230. So there is £80 difference between the Titleist and the Mizuno, which is quite a significant amount, especially when you consider how similar they are in a lot of categories. I think that when you look at the performance that's on offer from the Mizuno and the fact that you can swap up into the Fli-Hi from another Mizuno iron and without paying any extra, I think that represents pretty good value for money. As always, it's a really, really tricky one. I'm going to underline it again. The PING is the easiest to hit, it's the easiest to launch. You don't have to swing this very hard to get a really good result. Or I'd say to you, just go and hit a few shots with it. You'll be surprised how high it launches, how well it spins and how sort of long it stays in the air for. But it's not quite right for my game. I prefer the thinner sole utility irons, the utility irons that are more traditional looking, but that have a bit of technology built into them just to help with those off-centre hits. And for me, it would be a choice between these two. Now, the Titleist was more consistent in terms of the overall distances that I was able to get. The Mizuno was slightly longer and comes in, crucially, at £80 less. And I think I prefer the look of the Mizuno too. So for that reason, if I was choosing one of these three utility irons to put into my bag, it would be the Mizuno MP-18, MMC, Fli-Hi. All three of them are fantastic pieces of engineering, I will say that. If you haven't already tested them, I'm going to underline it again. Test them, make sure that you do. And if you are thinking of investing, make sure that you go through a proper custom fitting, because you will need those spin numbers, those launch numbers to be exactly right so that you get the carry that you need so that they fit into exactly the right place at the top end of your bag. If you can get all of those elements right, it doesn't matter which one you go for, you will find a utility club that suits you perfectly.